welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to be profiling Snow Property Services. Really great story, great business. Over the last several years, they've seen a lot of growth in their business, and kind of just today will be a great conversation with a member of their team unpacking what they did to kind of unlock this growth in their business. In case you don't know who I am, my name is Mike Hardy. I am President and CEO here at Top Software. If you're not sure what Top Software does, we provide technology which brings the entire HOA together in one ecosystem. And when I mean the entire HOA, I really do mean the entire HOA. So when we think about what unifies the community, it's bringing the homeowners, the board members, the vendors, the key external partners, the property managers, the accounting staff, the executive team. It's bringing all those people together in a place where they can collaborate and share information in real time. And it starts with accounting at the bedrock, but extends all the way out to reporting and communications. It extends out to integrations with third parties. So at the end of the day, through the Tops One ecosystem, our goal is to make it so that every constituent in the community has access to real-time information with complete transparency and eliminate duplicative systems that just make it a lot harder to do the job of the community. The pieces that we want to bring to the table are everything you see in this list. We want to give you the accounting back office and management platform. We want to give you the financial tools. We want to help you with your AR and AP payments, give you the platform for resident and board engagement. And we also want to give you the tools to bring your vendors in through vendor management and AP automation. So at the end of the day, what we know is that every community, regardless of size, has to do all of the above. What's great about our Tops One platform is that we give you a vehicle to do all of the above in one central place. And in the process, we eliminate multiple systems that just kind of create more work and oftentimes a lot more expense for our clients. So if through the course of today, if you would like to learn more about what we do, we'd love to talk to you, love to share with you how Tops One is making a difference in clients' lives. And if you think you'd like to be a Tops One client, love to, again, talk to you about that as well. But let's switch gears and let's talk about Snow Property Services. So today we're really lucky to be profiling Snow. We've got Rick Habit, Vice President there. Rick, are you online with us?
Yeah, I'm here with you, Mike.
Great. It's good to see you, Rick.
Good to be with you.
So Snow Property Services, can you tell everybody a little bit about Snow Property Services, kind of what you do and kind of what sets you apart in the market?
Yeah, we're a management company here in the Phoenix metro area and actually branches in other areas of the state of Arizona. We were founded back in 2001 as a family-based company by our founder, Dustin Snow, and his wife, Sherry. And this is our 20th year in business. And we offer all services to communities and manage both commercial and as well as residential properties and condos.
That's great. And when you think about kind of Snow Property Services, you mentioned like Dustin, he founded the company right back in 2001?
Correct, yes. Mm-hmm. And he and his wife founded it and grew it as a small company for quite a while.
So when we think about kind of the story of kind of Snow Property Services, you and I were talking and you were sharing with me some of the kind of things that you've done. So I think, kind of today as we unpack, Snow Property Services, let's spend a little time talking about kind of Dustin and founding the company early on and that kind of founder-led growth period, switching kind of this crossroads where you guys found yourselves kind of trying to decide what the next kind of right phase for the business was, the actions that you guys wound up taking and the results. Sound good to you?
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right. So let's kind of talk about that. You said Dustin kind of founded this business, family kind of led business in 2001. What made him decide to start a community management company?
Well, he was in a service industry and was associated with community management. Even some of his neighbors, he had a neighbor that had a management company. And so he was introduced to the concept and the idea of property management early on. and just kind of grew into that. I think Dustin is a very service-oriented kind of person in his nature, and so it lended itself to getting into this market and into doing these types of services as well. And I believe that that's really where it started, is the idea of being of service to communities and being able to provide management that would be, trustworthy and good in providing the services needed for management of communities. And so I think that's really where the heart of it started. And his philosophy, I think, grew out of that, being very fair and honest and transparent with people and just providing the best quality service he could for the most equitable return for the communities.
One of the words that I hear a lot when you and I have been talking is transparency. Can you, it sounds like this is a core belief that Snow Property Services had from the get-go, and it really kind of was instilled by Dustin early on. What can you talk to us about what transparency kind of meant or means to you guys, and maybe why it was so important for him?
Yeah, I think there's a fundamental belief, and early on when I began knowing Dustin, I actually started out with him sitting on a board as a board president, interviewing him as a potential management company, and that was about 15 years ago. And we hired him, and part of it was because we just felt our experience had been that there wasn't transparency in our relationship with our management company. And he offered that. He was very genuine. He was very upfront about things. Part of it was there were no hidden gimmicks or costs. We knew exactly what it was going to cost us to do business with him. There weren't hidden fees. There were not going to be add-ons and things like that. And so that really attracted me as a board member to join forces with him at that point and develop a relationship that has continued for all those years in different aspects as I've changed my role, from being a board member and working with him in that situation. And then later on, as I came to work for his company the last 4 years, 5 years. And so that transparency becomes, in my opinion, a crucial issue. That is one of the reasons why we were very upfront in our presentation and also in our delivery. What you see is what you're going to get, and it's not going to change as we move down the road in our relationship with the association. That's one of the reasons why our association with TOPS has been good over the years, and especially with TOPS 1 gives us the ultimate ability to have that transparency for not just our boards, but also for our homeowners.
So and I appreciate that. So you've got a very kind of different kind of background. So you come into this, you joined Snow in 2017, but prior to that, you were a customer of Snow for over a dozen years. So you were a customer, and you had your own career going. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, like what you were doing before and how you got personally involved in kind of being in community management, on the board side first?
Yeah, I moved to the Phoenix Valley in 1990 and moved into a community and had never even experienced HOAs before that. And so I kind of got thrust into it and drafted into being in the board. And so I started learning from the ground up what HOA management really was from a board member's perspective. And I've served on several boards over the years. My background is actually education. I was an educator. Before I retired from that, I was a college professor in California. And so even during that time when I had left the Phoenix market, I would do work for Dustin via the internet and do some different projects for him. So we kept that relationship alive for a long time. So when I came back to the Valley after I retired from teaching, it was just a natural result that he and I connected again, and I, to be honest with you, was bored, and he said, "Do you want to come to work for me?" And so we started having that relationship where I came and became a part of the management team here at Snow.
It's interesting. My dad started a community management company, Rick, when I was a kid, and that's kind of how the Hardy family got into community management. But his story is very similar to yours. Like, he got into community management because he was on the board of directors for our community, And for him, he's like, I think I can do a better job than the management company that we hired is doing, and that kind of pushed him into community management. Similarly, you had a great relationship with Dustin and his company, so it's kind of similar though. You started on the board side and you moved into the management side, kind of like my dad did.
And I think it gave a different perspective, than just coming in from the corporate world or from other management companies, because I do view it, I think, a little differently than some management people, in their style, because I'm looking at it all the time from a board and a member perspective, as well as from the management side.
That's a really good point. So let's kind of fast forward. So 2001, Dustin founds a company and begins to acquire these first group of clients. And it sounds like that's where Snow begins to kind of develop their kind of what sets them apart in the market with this kind of real adherence to the notion of transparency. Let's kind of go to this next chapter, because I think this is interesting, and I think a lot of people on the call will relate to this. 2001 to 2017, it looks like Snow had solid, steady growth. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. It was consistent, steady growth through all those years.
And I think when you and I were talking, like this was a period where he really began to assemble maybe some core team members to kind of.
Yeah, we have team members that have been here since the beginning. I've got a community manager that has managed the same properties for 15 years. There's consistency in this core group that he has established. And we've had people come and go, obviously, but there is that core group that is still here today.
And during this time, again, Dustin was leading the company, founder in the business. Is it fair to say like he was the driver of growth for this entire stage?
Well, and he also has a very unique philosophy, I think, that is unique in this kind of corporate structure, and that is that Dustin has always managed properties. Even as CEO today, he still has a portfolio. And part of that, which I really believe is a strength, is that regardless of who you are in this company, you're going to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening in communities, so that you're never at a loss as to what's going on. And so everyone in our company that is in management manages a portfolio. They manage properties so that they never lose sight and understanding of what is happening in the industry and what's happening in the HOAs, because there's no better way to know than to be right there on the front line. So.
Yeah. Right before we went live, you'd asked me if I always kind of do these webinars, and I told you I do, and it's for the exact same reason. I want to dig in and hear what kind of opportunities and challenges our clients have, and kind of it helps me to understand kind of the people behind the name, right? And I think that's a great thing, is like making sure that everybody understands at the end of the day, it's the person on the other side who we serve that matters.
Yeah, I do a lot of marketing, and I'm able to market better because I manage. I understand when they have questions and concerns, I know what they're dealing with because I'm dealing with them myself, and so you don't lose touch with what's happening. It makes a big difference.
When you think about like this kind of stage where it's kind of a steady growth trajectory, one of the things that you and I had talked about is that there were opportunities maybe out there that maybe the organization just wasn't in a position maybe to capitalize on as you're kind of going through this kind of phase of growth. Maybe let's just kind of trying to think about how to, but were there ever temptations maybe to try to grow faster, or was it just always trying to be measured and steady?
I wasn't as involved through most of this growth period other than to see what's happening, but I think that Dustin has always been conservative in his nature in business, and so he's not going to run faster than he has the strength to perform. And so I think he's always been very calculated in making sure that when he takes on a client, he's capable of dealing with their needs. Um, I'm sure that there are times when he didn't do a proposal because he felt like it was outside of what they should be doing. I know that that's even happened, since then. That we are careful about who we're going to try to serve because we don't want that to be a failure for them either.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's always been kind of his mantra, that he's going to be calculated on making sure that we can perform to the expectation of who we're our client. And I think that's part of the reason why it was a steady, slow growth. It wasn't as exponential as we've experienced since then.
And I gotta say, there's a lot of prudence in that. Is like as you're kind of growing and as you're in this kind of stage of your business where you're kind of growing, building that reputation is so important, and maybe not overextending your reach. That so many times when we're trying to grow our businesses, we maybe kind of grab any piece of business that comes our way just because it's more's got to be better, right? Sounds like he actually understood the longer tail opportunity better than most of us, which is not every piece of business you can get is a good thing. Make sure you can deliver and not create like maybe a bad relationship.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of that is told in the fact that in the beginning, a lot of these communities were smaller communities. They were
Yeah.
ones that could be handled well by a smaller company. And as we grew, the portfolio changed to now currently, we are taking on much larger clients than we would have ever done back in this time.
That's great. So, without kind of getting kind of like into the details too much, 2017 was a year you kind of came into Snow where you no longer were a client. You now became a part of the business. And you stepped in as Dustin was kind of being pulled away to take care of some things in his personal life. Talk to us like real quick, like how hard was it for you to like make that jump from being a client to now being inside this business?
It wasn't difficult from the standpoint of our relationship, Dustin and my relationship. The struggle, I think, came for our company. A lot of people, when I first showed up, didn't know who in the world I was or what I was doing. And so that was something Dustin and I had to work through to figure out, okay, what's my role in the company? He saw my asset of being able to train because as a teacher, that I could do training, that I could do a lot of different things to help the business to grow. But it took a little while for us to figure out, okay, exactly what the role would be and what we would do. You mentioned, family reasons. He did have some things that he had to deal with his family, which really did require him to spend more time with his family.
Yeah.
And so as a result, it just became a natural thing for me to try to fill the voids that he would have to leave in order to give that time. And so it did evolve. It didn't suddenly start, on day one, this is what we're going to do, but it evolved over a period of time to the point where we're at now.
So you didn't show up day one, Rick, and he's like, hey, here's the keys to the car, drive it.
Knowing Dustin, he would have given that, but it wouldn't have been a comfortable situation to be in because we had to learn what role needed to be filled.
Yeah. No, again, very, very, it's always tough when you bring somebody new in. There's opportunities here. And, one of the things that you and I had talked about is that, the company had grown to a nice level of success.
Yeah.
And, with what was going on, thinking like you and Dustin kind of putting your heads together, like, where do we want to go? Like, how do we navigate this together going forward? Like, it'd be very easy to maintain status quo, but that's not what you guys chose to do. You guys actually, you actually made what might be an unintuitive choice based on the scenario, which was let's try to grow.
Well, and that had to be a cognitive decision we had to make because it would have been very easy to stay where we were and to just keep going at the direction we were, and it would have been fine. But we did have to make a decision at one point and say, okay, what are we going to be? Are we going to stay this, small company that does a good service, or are we going to try to expand that and provide more opportunities to serve other communities? to expand our workforce, do those kinds of things to benefit a lot of other people, or do we just stay the way we were? And we reached that decision that, yeah, we would expand and we would go beyond what we were doing. But it also then took us to, we had to rethink some things. We had to come to a decision of, okay, what entity are we going to be? Are we going to be this corporate entity now and try to take on a different look and a different role, or are we going to stay with our core value beliefs and be this really family-centered company that is going to just carry on with the basic belief system that we've had all these years, and just try to expand it so that it can serve more people?
Mm-hmm.
And we came to the conclusion that we would stick with who we were. It took some time. It actually was a board member one day. I was expressing to a board president this dilemma that we were having, and she just said, "Why don't you just embrace who you really are?" And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, well, yeah, I mean that makes sense. And so that's what we did. We said we don't have to be something different. We are who we are. That's what's helped us to get where we're at. And all we have to do is make sure people understand that and
Yeah.
can see that in our, not only what we say, but our product and how we do it. And so that's really what we embraced and have moved forward with.
So when you and I were kind of talking about this, there were like a number of things that kind of happened or over this, and it wasn't like one day you guys sat down and like this all materialized, but like the choice to kind of start this process. There were about 7 kind of takeaways that that kind of came out of this, and on the screen here for everybody to see. These are kind of 7 takeaways we're going to unpack one slide a piece. But this is a really good blueprint. Talking with Rick, and again, I've never talked to Dustin, but I've got an immense respect for him and what he's done, because he and Rick kind of set this stuff in motion, and this is a really good blueprint if you find yourself in a similar place where your business has grown to a nice level and you're thinking about kind of going to that next level. Like what Rick just said about know who you are, like that's really important. And so Rick, if you'd like, I'd like to maybe spend the next 15, 20 minutes just kind of digging in each one of these, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely, that's fine.
But this is really good stuff. And again, love the meat on this. So the first thing was kind of the fresh perspective. 2017, Dustin had built a great business, and you had admired the business, kind of being a customer of it. But now you had a chance to kind of be inside the company. How much do you think just having that perspective of being a client, having a lot of respect for this company, but also coming from like not being in the industry, like how do you think that shaped how you saw things?
I think that that's what Dustin saw as well. He saw some fresh eyes coming in. And for example, one of the things he said, we need to do better training. You have that expertise. We need to train our staff. We need to train our boards. We need to give them those type of tools. And so I know that was a key thing that he really, really wanted to see happen. I wish we're still doing things with it, but we're developing still. But it did give a different perspective. And then likewise, I mean, I had never been in the roles of these managers on that side of the fence. And so it did help me to see different ways that we could, support management, support the people that are doing the work, and help them to see things a little differently. And that perspective changed. I think that my background in education has made a big difference in help. My background is also in social work and psychology, and so I've done a lot of work with even our staff in trying to mitigate things and making it the functioning of our office better, I think. So I think fresh eyes are a really good thing. Sometimes I think when we interview people to bring them into this industry, we're always looking for somebody who's been in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And yet what I'm finding is that, yeah, we want people with certain skill levels, but the fact that they haven't been in this industry may even be an advantage, that they come in with some fresh eyes and they
Yeah.
see differently. And I think that that's really the core of how Dustin started. You know, he wasn't born and raised into it. He came into it with a different perspective because, yes, he was service oriented, you know, service industry oriented, but he started out fresh in a management situation where he could see what management companies do, but he built a core value that was, I believe, unique in the industry. And he's held to that all these years. And the company continues to hold to that central core value. And so I think this company has been founded on that whole concept of seeing it in a different perspective. So when I came, I think it just was continuing that legacy, as it were, to try to see things more clearly from the point of view of others rather than just from a management standpoint.
Yeah. So terrific point. 2 weeks ago, we had Brett McNally on talking about his company Prism, and a great story, great company. And he made the exact same comment, Rick, about hiring people maybe that don't have industry experience because they don't have maybe some of these preconceived notions, and they do bring kind of a fresh perspective. So it's interesting that you share that sentiment. It makes a lot of sense to me that sometimes bringing in somebody that doesn't really know the domain can bring in ideas that maybe otherwise you just don't get.
Absolutely. They have skill sets that still can be adapted to this, but they bring that freshness, you know, to things in a different light.
And I think that for you coming in, like you certainly brought kind of some of that freshness, kind of, you know, working with Dustin and just being a customer, like you were able to come in and maybe see things a little bit differently.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. The next thing, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Totally different perspective, really.
Yeah. And I'd say for anyone on the call today, you know, if you're thinking about this, you know, bringing in somebody as a trusted advisor, either on a permanent or even like a contract basis, just to kind of give you some insight into your business is probably something worth doing. If you're kind of sitting at a place and you're wondering like what the next step to do, or you're trying to riddle your way through a challenge, bringing in somebody from outside, someone you trust, there's a lot of value in doing that.
I think that that's true. And I think that when you mentioned trust, I think that's the reason why Dustin and I were able to do what we've done, is that both of us have mutual trust and respect for each other. And I think that has always allowed me to walk into his office, close the door, sit down and say, okay, this is what I'm thinking and this is what I think needs to happen. And he respects that.
Yeah.
And I remember very early on, he didn't always buy onto it very quickly, but after a while he would think about it and process it. And then now that we've worked together, it's almost like we think, you know, we can think that way, and we move faster with things. But I appreciate the fact that I can walk in there knowing that he trusts me, that I'll share with him what I can. And I also trust him enough to know that if he says no, that's okay. You know, that isn't the direction he wants to go, because the bottom line is his name's still on the door.
Right, exactly. So the next step, I think, is actually one of the most interesting things you guys did, which is kind of the feedback that board member gave, which is to kind of know yourself. And so, and I would just say, what did you do? Because you shared with us that, you know, you began a process of just trying to identify areas where there were opportunities to make improvements.
Right.
How did you go about doing that?
You know, the first, well, observation was obviously a key. You know, observing what was happening, the interaction, and also we started meeting with, you know, managers on a frequent basis, where we bring together managers council kind of thing, and just talk about processes, talk about what isn't working, what is working. We did that with also other staff, and early on, that became a critical thing that helped us to kind of guide this in the direction we're in. You can be the top, you know, the top of the heap and demanding and telling people what to do, but the reality is that they know better what's happening and what isn't happening, and what's effective and what isn't. Mm-hmm. And so I think early on that was one of the key elements that helped me at least understand what was going on, and to have an open door policy. You know, you've got a problem, I want to hear about it. because that's the only way we're going to understand where our weaknesses, our strengths, direction really
Mhm.
are. And so that's how we started, and just listening.
Yeah.
I know that there were many times when a manager would come in and all I sat there doing was listening and nodding my head as they unloaded. But I was processing and thinking, okay, what's causing this and why is this happening and what can we do to solve the problem, um, and change the outcome, not just for this moment, but for the duration. And when, so that makes a difference as we move forward.
Yeah. So when I was thinking about that process that you did, just kind of this kind of micro transactional talking to people, in software development, that's called continuous innovation. And maybe you knew that, but that's exactly what you did. Is continuous innovation means that you're constantly gauging what's working, what's not working, and you're just making these micro adjustments along the way to make things a little bit better the next day than it was today.
And we found, we tried all kinds of things. It's like cooking spaghetti. You throw it at the wall, what sticks, it's done. And so we would do that with processes and with things that were going on in our, inside the company. And as a result, I think we've ended up with something that is much better than we started with. Is it where it needs to be yet? No. No, we're still innovating. We're still going to be moving forward and looking for ways to improve our processes, our support, whatever it is we have to do, especially for our staff. We have a great team of people working here, and probably, as Dustin and I said the other day, probably the best team we've ever had. As far as the way they work together and their support and their loyalty and their honesty and integrity. Just everything is what it needs to be right now. And our intent is to keep supporting that so it continues to grow that.
It's great. So if anyone kind of listening in today, this analyzation, the continuous innovation model is a great model. Lots of resources online about continuous innovation and how to kind of implement it. There's books, but that's basically kind of what Dustin and Rick did, is this kind of process of continuous innovation. It's a really agile way to think about kind of running your business and making improvements. Another great tool that we also use here, because we do CI here at TOPS, is SWOT. And if you haven't done a SWOT analysis, this just is periodically getting together with your core leadership team and assessing your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then from there, coming up with an action plan to address them. So, I think when we talk about knowing yourself, Rick, the CI stuff that you're doing is phenomenal. The SWOT stuff that is another way to do it. But if you're not currently doing either of these processes today, please, my recommendation, please make some time to do it, because it will make a big difference in your business.
Absolutely will.
The next part is, we talked about the vision, like updating and articulating the vision. And you said early on, as kind of Dustin got into community management, he quickly realized he wanted to do things a little bit differently. Fast forward to kind of 2017, 2018, in wanting to grow, did you kind of thread that needle where you wanted to stay true to that vision, but also expand that vision to be maybe a little bit bigger, a little bit broader, something to kind of really get around as you want to grow the business?
I think that that vision was such a core element that if we were to have lost that or set it aside, we wouldn't be who we are. And so we have to, as I said before, embrace that and say, no, we are going to be who we are. And the good thing about a vision that is based on some real fundamental true elements is that it is expandable. We can take that product, if you want to call it, the transparency and the communication, all those things, and it can be expanded exponentially because it's based on facts, it's based on truth, it's based on something that's valuable and is definitely tangible. It's not just some mission statement on a wall. It's the real thing. And so it wasn't hard once we said, okay, this is who we are and we're going to stay who we are, to actually say, okay, this is totally expandable. We can continue to do that. One of the key factors is making sure we have the people who can do that, because this is very much, it's not corporate, it is people driven.
Yeah.
I have to have managers who believe in this vision. You know, I have to have an AR person who answers the phone who believes in this vision, and how they're going to treat a customer is based on this. And so it's expandable as long as you can impart that vision to the people who work here. And we've been successful in doing that. But it's one person at a time. You know, a new person comes on, we have to have them understand what the vision is and try to help them feel that, so that it can be translated into what they do for people.
But I have to imagine it makes the people working inside the company feel like more motivated, that they're unifying and working towards, like, they're trying to do things a little bit differently, a little bit better.
And I believe that's true. You know, we talk about being a family. Matter of fact, if the staff weren't watching this in the boardroom, I would have done this from the boardroom, because on the wall in our boardroom is a big family portrait of Dustin and his family. And then around it are pictures, well, frames that have the name of the community and the year they joined our family.
Mm.
And it's just a big family portrait wall.
Yeah.
And that's the way we feel. But we feel the same way about our staff. They're part of our family. And we try to treat them that way. And we hope they feel that way, because we want them to also believe that this little community over here in Buckeye is part of our family.
Right.
Because the values that we have really are based on that. We care about the people we serve. And it's not just a corporate identity, it's not just a corporate relationship. And that really has always been Dustin's core value. There are people he has been serving that, you know, he's managed their property for 20 years, and he's part of their family. You know, we get invited to the birthdays, we get invited to the weddings. You know, it's just part of that, because that's the way they feel. And that's what he's been able to transmit. And we have to continue to try to do that, to make sure they know that we believe they're part of our family.
Right. So a big part of that is kind of building a team that can kind of carry that message and live that message. And this is one of the things that when you were talking with us, you know, this is probably one of the biggest changes you guys implemented, was maybe restructuring the way that the company looks internally. So talk to us a little bit about that. Like, talk to us, like, you know, what you were trying to solve for, and again, hopefully I did a good job representing the structure, but like, what you like about the structure you guys have implemented, and what do you think it allows you to do?
You know, what we identified, once again, going back to trying to understand who and what and how we serve, we identified who we serve exactly. And so I work as the vice president of the company. I direct all things underneath Dustin. I mean, he's still the CEO, but so under me, we have directors of operations, Andy, who's a phenomenal young woman who does a great job. She handles everything that deals with our homeowners. So every homeowner that calls or communicates with our office goes through her department, as far as accounts receivable. Actually, accounts payable isn't on that side, but that's okay. You got most of it right.
Okay, good.
But everything, customer service and all of those things, compliance, all of those are handled by her. Billing, you know, as far as statements, all of that, the type of things that interact with the customer, with the homeowner, come under her direction. And then everything that is handled in dealing with the management of HOA, which is under the community managers, including, that's why accounts payable is actually under me, because that's directly to the HOAs and their vendors, not to the homeowners. That just falls under that package. And so we've kind of segmented it in a way so that everything that happens in relationship to a homeowner is under the direction of Director of Operations, Andy. And then everything that happens in direction to the HOA management of the community and those type of things fall under the Director of Management. And we found that in doing that, we don't really compartmentalize as much as we just zero in on where our strengths need to be to help support the system. Because we interact with each other all the time, obviously. But we've been able to give direction and focus that way. That I think has built some strength, rather than everybody doing everything, you know, and answering to a office manager or whatever, you know, structure might have been.
Yeah, one of the things that you kind of talked about it, like two things here, like the team approach on the kind of the community side, but also the cross training
Yeah.
across kind of the team. Can you unpack both of those a little bit?
Yeah. One of the things that we found is we're, in a growth mode is that we can't staff enough. We take on a new community, we've got to meet their needs immediately. And and you can't exponentially just say we're going to hire 5 people, we're going to just build our team. And so cross training became a big issue early on before we went to Tops Pro, to Tops One when we were in Tops Pro. It was very difficult. You were very specialized on what you did and what you understood and what your lane that you stayed in. Where with Tops One, we were able to expand that. That's one of the things we find very valuable is that all of our people can be cross-trained on just about everything. And the platform allows us to get into everything and to help any customer. So when we have an acquisition of a new community, we literally can mobilize everyone on our team to answer phones and to deal with customers. They're calling because they do at the beginning, they're concerned. And so our structure allowed us to do that. Give flexibility along with Tops One being the tool that we could use to do that. And the cross training allows us to be more flexible. We can allow somebody to take a vacation instead of saying, "Oh, you can't leave because what would we do if you leave?" For a week. So that's given a good support mechanism to our staff. And it also has done something else, which early on was something we were trying to struggle with, and we tried developing different things, and that was to have a mutual respect for everyone. Managers in the natural role of things can look down on, admin and that type of thing and think that they're just there for this purpose. The structure we've developed has created, I think, a much more supportive environment where we appreciate each other. I appreciate what the accounts receivable people do because I'm also dealing with it, when I need to and help out. And so they likewise have learned to appreciate what a manager's pressures are, as they're trying to deal with boards and trying to deal with things that are happening in communities. So I think it's created the end result which we wanted, which was we're a great team, all of us, working together to accomplish what our goal is, which is to serve the communities that we are hired to serve. So I think it's worked out extremely well. And we're still looking at things and still working towards, improving, but we've got a great team.
Yeah. And I think too, like you talk about kind of good bones, and I love that kind of metaphor. Like it feels like you've created a structure that if you expand, there are areas within like your structure that you could logically expand to. Like we could add another accounts receivable person, or we could add somebody more on customer service, or we could stand up a new manager and assistant team to absorb like these next tranche of clients.
And that's exactly how we've been able to do it and expand. And so we haven't had to expand exponentially with the growth that we've experienced as far as number of people. I mean, that's why your tagline about saving so much in expenses, but that's partly because of Tops One being a good partner to save us time. But the model we've created makes for easy expansion. We can add another person in accounts receivable. We can add another person in compliance. We can add a management team, just like you said, and expand the model very, very easily.
No, I think this is really good. Again, I apologize, I got it wrong, but
no, okay.
But I think this is really good because sometimes like we build our companies and they kind of, like you said, they're a little bit haphazard. We kind of, hey, we need to hire somebody here, but having like a structure that kind of really makes sense, like it's almost like Lego blocks. You just kind of clip them into place.
Add some more, yeah.
Yeah. One of the other big things that you've talked about today is just kind of communications and a communicative structure. So as you think about hiring people, the staff getting bigger, getting more clients, talk to us about like the challenges and the opportunities that you saw in just being more communicative.
I think that is something when I first came on working that we were really struggling with is communication with the clients, and we had started expanding to different types of things that we could try to expand that communication skill. Tops One, when you came on with Tops One, it really was helpful because of the ability to e-blast and to communicate well with our clients. That we have an expectation that we've set as a company that 24 hours or less, we're back in contact with the client, with whether a board member or whether it's a homeowner. And that's our outside number. We strive very hard to make it much less than that. And music background choreography. There
There
we
we
go.
go. Yeah.
Felt like we were on Jeopardy or something.
Yeah, it felt like we were on for a little while.
So I think that that communicative structure is really, really important. When I talked about we have a new client come on, a new community, we literally do adjust in the sense that our front desk person who's amazing, she knows that our objective is to have somebody talk with live body. And so
Mm.
she'll look and see who's available, and that's who takes a call. Because we're all trained enough, we know how to answer the question. We have all the information in front of us. You know, our cheat sheets on tops help us to, know the information about a community. And so any of us can take a call and try to help that person with whatever it is they need. And so we step up that so that we don't have the lag time and the extensive, emails or even voicemails that we have to return a lot. But it takes a team effort. It takes a real commitment on the part of all the team members to be able to do that and be willing to do it and to deal with somebody. Well, that's not somebody in my community. Well, that's okay. They're all part of our family. We deal with everybody, regardless of who's in charge of that community as far as the management team. So I think that those are really important. Another thing, which when you're talking about transparency, which has helped a lot, is the portal, both for our homeowners and for our boards. That's an essential tool. The more we can get people involved in that, the less it really lessens our load on phone calls and on that communication, because they can communicate to us through that. But likewise, the most important thing is they can see the data they need in real time. And so they know what's going on. That sometimes can generate calls, but usually those are good follow-up calls to help them solve a problem. They're not calling screaming what's going on. We can actually help them. And that, I think, has helped us in this exponential growth, because we had to man switchboards, and staff to actually handle the volume of calls that would be generated if we didn't have those things accessible to homeowners. I don't know that we could do that. It would be physically a little impossible.
Well, I think like we've got a few minutes left, and I think we've got kind of two more points to cover. And I think you've mentioned us a few times. In 2018, you and Dustin chose to kind of move to Tops One. The transitions are always kind of a pain. But you and the team leaned into it. You guys were kind of committed to the process, which again, moving systems is kind of hard. Looking through kind of some of the benefits you guys have seen in moving to one, you've talked about offloading some of the customer service to the online tools. Where else have you seen like some of the biggest impacts from using Tops One to help you guys grow?
I think the automation has been a great tool. I think that, like I said, the portal has been a great instrument for our homeowners and for our boards. I think the fact that we have everything in one spot. We used to have another component that did compliance, and there were different things that we were dealing with. Everything is right at our fingertips, regardless of where we're at. I mean, I can be on my phone in the middle of nowhere, and I can still answer a call and deal with something because I have it on my phone and or on my laptop or at home or whatever I'm doing. I'll tell you, going into 2020 with COVID, being on this kind of a platform was really a great blessing, because of the fact that when we did have to have people that were on quarantine, they could still work. We didn't have, so we were able to function through 2020 at a very high level of responsiveness. We never shut our company down. We never shut our doors, actually. And we were able to keep moving forward without even, too much of a hiccup. I mean, we had to deal with things, but
Sure.
it genuinely allowed us to keep going at the same pace we were and keep developing and progressing.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that. Like, we obviously, we want to, we look at this relationship as a partner. We want to help you guys grow and reach your goals. And the fact that you guys have seen success, I mean, that means the world to my team here, Rick. And again, I think that's exciting for us to hear that, you guys are growing, and we've got a small part to play in that process. Like that, that feels really good for us.
Well, and you guys have been super supportive. Dustin and I were talking about it yesterday, that I don't know that we could, there's lots of platforms out there, but we had developed an early on relationship with through Tops Pro. And when we made a decision, we looked at other things. And when we made a decision, we looked at the relationship we had. And that, in our particular company, relationships matter.
Yeah.
And so when we have a relationship that's ongoing, that's a good, productive one with a vendor like we had with Tops, we felt committed to stay with it. And it's worked out very productive for us. It's been a very worthwhile partnership to continue, and one we hope to do for many, many years. So
Likewise, we want the same thing. So there's one last kind of takeaway from kind of the growth story, and which is just, and again, it's kind of ties everything up, which is, you talk about just those family principles and never deviating from like that core mission.
it really is the bottom line. Through all the growth and all of the changes and all the things that we've tried to do, we came back to this. We have to stay true to that, our core principle.
Yeah. So let's do this. We've got, like I said, we've only got a couple minutes. So I just want to share with everybody a little bit kind of what has happened from 17 to kind of forecasting through the end of the year. So it looks like today you guys are on a path to maybe get to as many as 120 communities managed by the end of the year.
That's our projection. We think that that's very feasible. That's where we'll be. And probably another 25% increase in doors as well.
I mean, I look at the chart and the growth. I mean, like this, you guys have been a little bit of a rocket ship these last few years, just with growing. In this entire process, you've told me that the steps you've made internally, coupled with Taps One, you think that you're spending about 200,000 less than you would have spent if you had not made some of these changes.
Yeah, because we would have had to expand our workforce to be able to do this, and we have. We've expanded our workforce, but we probably, without the abilities that Tops One gives us, as well as the changes that we've made, we would not have been in a position where we could have done it without increasing workforce even more so, And yeah, I think the 200,000 is probably a fairly conservative estimate on what it's.
I love to hear that. Look, I love to hear that. I mean, there's growth. I mean, there's top line growth and bottom line growth, and when you can kind of get them both going in the right direction, that's a really good feeling. So I mean, a lot of, I just want to, we got to wrap up here. Are there any kind of last thoughts or anything that you would kind of share with our attendees today as they're thinking about their own businesses and maybe the steps that they should be thinking about to unlock the growth in their own businesses?
I think that the number one thing, which I think goes back to the founding of this company by Dustin, and has been the core thing all the way through, is figure out who you really are, and what your goal is and what your vision is of service in this industry. I think that that's where we get lost. I think we get caught up in the daily, just doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of having a vision of what we're trying to accomplish versus just coming in every day from 8 to 5 and punching the clock and doing the work, I think that's where we get in trouble because it doesn't translate to our customers. It doesn't translate positively to our customers. But having a clear vision and a core value, I think, is translatable. They feel it and they can understand it.
Yeah, and I would say being intentional about it. Like it's clear you and Dustin, you set out to make this happen. It didn't happen by accident. You guys set out to make this happen.
But I think that if you're honest about what you're trying to do, that the natural result will be exactly what happened with us.
Yeah.
And continues to happen. It's not because we said, oh, by 2021 we're going to have this many clients. It's we built the model and said, okay, basically, if you build it, they will come. You know,
Right.
well, that's really what is happening, and he's been doing that since 2001 because we do no advertising, no solicitation whatsoever. In any way, shape, or form. We just don't do it. We don't spend dime trying to solicit clients. We don't want to in that sense because we're doing exactly what we need to do, and we're growing, and we're
Great.
good.
You guys, well, congratulations on your success. Again, looking forward, you guys look to be on a path where you're gonna again hit some really great numbers at the end of this year, and on a path for future years to continue to grow. So on behalf of everybody that's in attendance today and behalf of the TOPS team, Rick, thank you for making time to kind of share your story with us. Dustin, thank you for letting Rick make the time to share the story with us. Again, it's a great story. It's a great business that you guys are building, and congratulations on all the success.
Thank you. Appreciate your time as well.
Of course. And if anybody on the call is interested in learning more about TOPS, this is again a little bit of a gratuitous plug, but our goal is to do what we've been doing with Snow with management companies and communities across country, and helping just to bring everything together so that we can reduce the workload, make our clients' lives easier, bring everything together in one place. So if that appeals to you, let us know. We'd be happy to talk to you about it. Kind of recapping some of the things that we learned today, have good foundations to build your company on. Typically with the companies you're growing, that founder's DNA is going to be all over the business, and that founder-led growth stage is so critical to build that reputation. Periodically, every company's at a crossroads. Take the time when you are at a crossroads to analyze where you're at and make sure you're making a choice that's right for you and your business. And if you do choose to grow, identify those principles that are going to make the most sense for you. And I'm confident that if you do all that, the results will be something that you'll be very, very pleased with. So again, really good stuff today. I don't think we have time for Q&A. We're a little past the hour, but I do want to make sure everybody knows we have another webinar teed up for about a month from now, April 21st, with Keys Property Management, Scott Hedrick over there. Really terrific company that is growing and very similar to Snow, is able to kind of start reducing some of the labor content in their business, and want to kind of share their story and some of the challenges that they've had and some of the opportunities they've had. So on behalf of Rick and myself and the entire TOPS team, thank you guys for making time to join our webinar today. I hope you took a couple nuggets away. There's a lot of good meat that I think we covered. And I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Have a great rest of your day.